Sometimes I have wrestled with a poem, disturbed and not ready to accept its message, till I quieten down and realize that I am only afraid of its unflinching truth. This is Sunil Bhandari, and you are listening to Uncut Poetry. My mother is full of water and ready for the sonography. I spent a day in the hospital with mother. Blood tests, ultrasonography. At some point I screamed at the staff, "She's 85 years old and you have made her sit with 2 liters of water inside." She gently asked, "Are you indignant for my age or them for that little delay?" As I simmered down, she nodded off to sleep, and I watched her now tenderly gentle inside. I could think of her as a responsibility as she daily broke down in paroxysms of pain, but there was too much soul left over for me to not walk beside her, still listening. I have seen her become her own shadow as I slowly become her. I perpetuate her strengths in her shade. Later, I will be her foibles. Surely, we become everything we dislike about our mothers. The attendant calls out her name. I wake her gently. She refuses my hand and immediately stumbles. So I hold her to the radiology room. She opens her sandals and goes in, looks back with a smile, says, "I will be back in a jiffy." I wish I could give a name to that sense of infinity as I sit down, waiting for her. Our relationship to our mothers is a supple thing. Day to day, year to year, age to age, it changes. Beyond the evolutionary grounding, beyond the nurturing necessities, we are an amalgam of the obvious and the extraordinary. To be gifted the kind of unprecedented, unflinching support we do get from mothers is a benediction of nature. Our steady rejection of it and her holding tight to the tethers is the obvious unravelling which this relationship goes through. Her instinct becomes a need. The child's need for her transitions to become her burden. And then there's an inflexion point when things come to a head. Often in the teens, often later. It doesn't matter when. What does matter is that it's almost a rebellion of a kind. Things start breaking down as if everything was fragile to begin with, as if the relationship was nothing more than of a food provider and laundry-doer. And the tie is suddenly fraught with the consequences of unreconciled pain. Saka is often found elsewhere. And therein lies the genesis of the fracture. The bird seeks to fly out of the nest, but the nester is still not done with the chick. But relationships are both the present and the unravelling. A lot of its pain is the passage, though its joy is retrospective. And though we might be nostalgic as we look back, we might actually have come out through a long tunnel of pain. But in spite of all its rockiness, a mother remains a symbol of our breath. The sooner we let that one thought overshadow everything else, we would have let ourselves understand the meaning of the most meaningful relationship in our life. This is Sunil Bhandari and you are listening to Uncut Poetry. If you enjoyed this poem, rate it on Spotify or leave a comment on Apple Podcast. And I have a lovely newsletter called The Uncuts, which is like a Sunday dollop of warmth and fun and beauty. Subscribe to it. The link is in the show notes. And if you loved this episode, please do share it with someone you love. See you next week.